Hello guys, this is Base. You already saw the title of the video. This will be a character analysis on Karin Asakura. Most of the content that will be discussed here are from the latest main story chapter in JP, which is chapter 5, part 2. So either skip this video and come back once Globo gets it, or stick around cause, I don't know, don't give a fuck I guess. Anyways, chapter 3 spoilers in 3, 2, 1. For better clarification, I'll only say either Karin Asakura or simply Tsukasa if I'm referring to them both as a whole. But I'll mostly be referring to them as their personalities to keep it simple. You already know like Karirin, which is the true Karen, Karen-chan or Carrie, the psycho killer, Bakasa, the dumb one, and Awakened Tsukasa, the smart one. With that out of the way, let's get started. From the very beginning of the chapter, we see Asakura Karin as a divided existence. Karin, her true self, and Karin-chan, the persona she projects to survive. But this isn't just a case of split identities, it's something deeper, something far more tragic. Karin is simple, reclusive, and filled with self-loathing fueled by bullying, trauma, and tragedy. While Karen-chan is the shield that steps forward in her place when her mental limit was reached. It's a relationship built out of necessity, shaped by the cruelty of the world around them, and yet as we move through this chapter, it becomes clear that this arrangement can't last forever. Karen-chan knows her purpose. She exists for Karirin, to protect her, to keep her safe. But survival isn't enough. Not anymore. The military decision to keep her alive despite possessing the cure for her condition? That was never about Karen-chan's value. It was about Karirin's potential. She was the easier one to control, the more vulnerable one. And Karen-chan understood this better than anyone. But even so, she fought. She didn't just want Karirin to live. She wanted her to be strong. That's why Karen-chan orchestrated so many of Karirin's struggles throughout this chapter. Not out of malice, but to force her to grow into someone who could one day stand on her own. That's where Tsukasa comes in. At first glance, her presence in Karen-chan's plan seems coincidental, but in reality, she was a crucial piece of the puzzle. Both sides of her, Awakened Tsukasa and Bakasa, serve a purpose. But not as two separate entities. They are the same person, shaped by different functions. Awakened Tsukasa operates through code, logic, and precision, while Bakasa, in her recklessness, forms emotional connections in ways her awakened self never could. Karen-chan, unlike the rest of 31A, never saw them as different people. She recognized them as one, embracing both sides as equally vital. And that's precisely why Karen-chan, unlike the rest of 31A, recognized them as the same person. Where others may have perceived a shift between the two, Karen-chan saw continuity. She saw both sides of Tsukasa and treated them as one whole. In that way, Karen-chan was perhaps the only person who could truly understood Tsukasa, recognizing the necessity of both her calculated intelligence and her more emotionally driven foolish side. That's also what made Karen-chan so important to Tsukasa in return. Karen-chan provides something that Tsukasa lacked, the pathos to her logos. Karen-chan didn't just acknowledge the two aspects of Tsukasa's existence. She actively engaged with both, giving Tsukasa something she couldn't find elsewhere: genuine connection. But while Awakened Tsukasa recognizes Karen-chan's sacrifice, it was Bakasa who mourned her. Unlike Awakened Tsukasa who exists within a framework of rationality, Bakasa is free to feel, to react emotionally. And yet, it would be a mistake to say that Bakasa feared being erased. If anything, it was Awakened Tsukasa who feared losing Bakasa. Because while Awakened Tsukasa embodied Tsukasa's cold, analytical nature, Bakasa represented something far more valuable to her: the ability to connect with others. It's Bakasa who can experience genuine camaraderie, who can reach out without reservation. In that sense, Bakasa is everything Awakened Tsukasa wishes she could be, but she knows she never will. And that's why Awakened Tsukasa isn't afraid of her presence. She's afraid of losing her entirely. This struggle between true self and projected self defines Karirin's journey from the very beginning. For years, Karin-chan bore the burden of survival, stepping in whenever Karirin could not, but this arrangement came at a cost. Karirin never learned to stand on her own. Unlike Waki, who in this chapter takes an active role in shaping her destiny, Karirin is paralyzed by despair, trapped in the shadow of her alter ego. Waki's philosophy, you survive, you keep moving forward, no matter what, suggests that fighting back against suffering is the answer. But for Karirin, survival was always something Karin-chan handled for her. Now that Karin-chan is gone, Karirin is left questioning whether she is even capable of fighting for herself. To Waki, however, Karirin's self-destruction is not just frustrating, it's infuriating. Waki, someone who clawed her way through tragedy with nothing but sheer will, sees Karirin's despair as weakness. Worse than that, she sees it as privilege. While Karirin spirals over failures that exist mostly in her mind, visions of blood and grease on her hands, hallucinations of the dead, Waki has experienced loss in a way that is real and irreversible. Someone important to her, someone she may have fallen in love with if given more time, was taken before her eyes and she could do nothing about it. Her helplessness, that raw grief, fuels her rage. So when she lashes out at Karirin, it's not just to snap her out of it, it's because she's jealous, furious that someone who has the strength to fight is refusing to, even when those weaker than her are still pushing forward. Her anger reaches its peak when the topic speaks about killing. That's when Waki makes her point clear, choking Karirin as she drives home a brutal lesson. Survival isn't about justifying your pain, it's proving that you have the will to live. If you want to live, then kill me, she challenges, forcing Karirin to act. Waki isn't just trying to beat strength into her, she's demanding that Karirin stop making excuses, that she either fight or admit that she has no right to. When Karirin finally pushes Waki off, it isn't with coincidence, but with sheer, unfiltered desperation, and that more than anything is what Waki wanted, to prove to Karirin that deep down beneath all of her self-pity, there is a will to live. She just has to stop hiding from it. This is why Waki fights Karirin, not because she believes in who she could become, but because she cannot accept that someone with so much potential refuses to stand up even when those with far less strength are forced to. Waki, who had to make the impossible sacrifices just to keep moving forward, sees Karirin's resistance as selfishness. To Waki, Karirin is like a noble, with power she just refuses to use, while the commoners, the weak, have no choice but to fight and die for survival. This fight is not just physical, it is a battle of ideology. Karirin fights as if she has something to prove. Waki fights because she refused Karirin's strength to go to waste. For Karirin, the realization doesn't come in an instant. It is a slow, painful reckoning. Every strike, every desperate attempt to push Waki back, chips away at the illusion she's clung to. She has spent so long believing that her suffering was insurmountable, that her weakness was absolute. But as Waki forces her to fight, to act, Karirin finally understands it. It was never about strength alone. It was about will. And the terrifying truth is that she had never once chosen to fight for herself. Karen-chan had always done that for her. Every moment she hesitated, every time she cowered, she was making a choice. A choice to remain helpless. And now standing before Waki, that is what enrages her the most. Not Waki's words, not the violence, but the inescapable truth that all along she had let herself be weak. And if she has the power to make that choice, then she has the power to make another, to stand, to fight, to live. And that's what she did. And that's what makes moments like during the final battle so powerful to me. By the time Karin reaches that decisive moment in the beginning of day 12, she is not completely ready to stand on her own. That is why Awaken Tsukasa, in a moment that carries the weight of everything leading up to this point, says, "I'm amazing. Nobody else in the entire world could do what I do. And I still choose you." For Awaken Tsukasa, someone who sees relationships through logic and efficiency, this is the closest thing to a confession she will ever give. An admission that Karirin, despite all of her perceived weakness, matters. But even in this moment, Awaken Tsukasa knows that Karirin isn't ready. That's why she does something that defies her usual rationality. She sings the pieces, the songs of She is Legend, timed perfectly to the rhythm of the shots to guide Karirin's aim and push her forward. Because Awaken Tsukasa doesn't just want Karirin to accomplish her task, she wants her to believe. And then there's Bakasa. She appears only twice in Chapter 5 Part 2. Once to save her friends, and once too late to have a say to save a friend. The first time, it is Bakasa who fights, dragging her broken body to the final battlefield. She is the one who pushes herself beyond her limits, someone who refuses to stop. But when the true fight begins, it is Awakened Tsukasa who takes over, not because she wants to, because she had to. She knew that Bakasa couldn't win, but she could. And yet, in victory, it is Bakasa who lingers as her limit was reached. Because in the end, Awakened Tsukasa isn't afraid of losing herself. She's afraid of losing Bakasa. The part of her that can still connect with others, the part of her that, when all is said and done, is the one who still carries regret. But before Karen can truly move forward, she must confront something deeper than her own grief. Alienation. For so long, Karen-chan had been the one standing in her place, fighting her battles, protecting her from the chaos that unfolds in 31A. Every struggle, every moment of desperation, every hard-fought victory belonged to Karen-chan, not Karirin. In that Karirin had become an outsider in her own life. She can only observe the aftermath, the wreckage of battles she never truly participated in, the scars her squad mates carried, the silent understanding forged through shared struggle. She had never felt the weight of a sight in her hands the way Aoi had her shield, never known the sheer terror of facing a monster like Flathand, never understood what it meant to trust her squad mates with her life. Because she wasn't there, Karen-chan was. And more than that, Karen had allowed it to happen. She had regretted her own agency for so long that when Karen-chan reached her limit, Karirin was left with nothing but the emptiness of everything she had avoided. And then we reached the resolution, the ultimate reversal. For so long, Karen-chan was the one making decisions, the one stepping forward, but this time, it's Karen who chooses. She doesn't reject Karen-chan, nor does she let her fade into nothingness. Instead, she accepts her, not as an alter ego, not as a shield, but as a part of herself. She takes the pill, has a heart-to-heart, and says a perfect goodbye to not let go of Karen-chan, but to carry her strength forward. It's a reaffirmation of the same promise she once made to Tsukasa in Chapter 4 Part 1, that she would always be there, that she wouldn't disappear. But this time, she isn't relying on anyone else to keep that promise. She is keeping it herself. In the end, Karen-chan was never just an alter ego. She was Karirin's survival instincts given form. But what about her real strength? Real strength isn't about erasing one side of yourself. It's about integration. Taking every part of who you are, your fears, your strengths, your pain, and forging it into something whole. And that is exactly what Karirin does by the end of the chapter. So yes, the meteor, the battles, the grand stakes, those all matter. But at its heart, this is a story about identity, what it means to be you. Karirin and Karen-chan were never two separate people, but neither were they of the same mind. And by the end, Karirin finally understands she doesn't have to choose between them. She can accept Karen-chan in spirit. She can move forward, not just as Karirin or just Karen-chan, but as herself, Karen Asakura. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk. Nah, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much for listening to my analysis of this wonderful character. Man, Chapter 5 Part 2 really is just peak. Karen Asakura is definitely, at the very least, top 5 in my favorite HBR character rankings. And I'm very much looking forward to how Karirin grows in future chapters. And yeah. Oh, but before you go, here's a bonus from me.
頭のいい私は常に上から目線で嫌われ者だった。でも今の仲間を失いたくない。いつか私はカレンちゃんと別れる日が来る。その時はどうか一緒にいて。
This was pointed out to me just before finishing the video. Crazy how much one chapter just changed the meaning of these two lines. I fucking love this game, man, and will continue to do so. And yeah, that's the end of the video, I guess. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you miss any of my videos, share with a friend, and watch these videos next right here. So yeah, see you guys next time. Bye!